Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuramedeva Sarvakarishu Sarvada Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Om Ganganapate Namaha Om Ganganapate Namaha Om Ganganapate Namaha Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Gunatito Aksharam Brahma Bhagavan Purushotamaha Jano Janannidam Satyam Muchyate Bhavabandhanat Om Shri Swami Narayana Namaha Om Shri Lakshmi Narayana Namaha Om Shri Krishna Narayana Namaha Om Shri Nar Narayana Namaha Om Shri Vasudev Narayana Namaha Om Shri Satya Narayana Namaha Om Shri Rama Narayana Namaha Om Shri Shiva Narayana Namaha Om Shri Badri Narayana Namaha Om Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya Om Namo Narayanaya Om Namo Narayanaya Om Namo Narayanaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya Om Namah Shivaya Vame Yasya Sthita Radha Shrishya Yasya Asti Vakshasi Vrindavana Viharam Tam Sri Krishnam Rudi Chintaye Nijatmanam Brahmarupam Dehatraya Vilakshanam Vibhavitena Kartavya Bhakti Krishnasya Sarvada Shri Hanumate Namaha Om Jai Hanuman Gyan Gun Sagar Jai Kapistev Loko Ujagar Ramaduta Atulita Baladhama Anjani Putra Pavana Sutanama Shri Hanumate Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to Nitya Satsang. Today is the 24th of January 2023. We are blessed by the grace of Bhagavan Shankar and the great goddess Mahashakti to have the opportunity to contemplate on extraordinary Vedantic scripture, that is Sri Vivek Chudamani. In the Vivek Chudamani, we have been examining for quite a while now, very carefully and in depth, verse number 65, where Adi Shankaracharya Ji is talking about the realization of the Atman, and he's talking about Maya Karya. So we're examining that a bit further in relation to the chakras, the 9 forms of the goddess. So many pieces are connected together, and the 3 avasthas, Jagra, Swapna, Shushupti, Avastha. Along those lines, we are going to continue today further into Swapna Avastha. Before we do so, I would like to offer my prostrations, Anantakoti Namaskaram and Danvat Pranam to all the great sages in the past, present, and in the future, and to the one and singular Parabrahma Paramatma residing everywhere at all times and within our own heart at the same time. So with that prarthana and bhav, we are examining the mysteries of Swapna Avastha. There's so much to be said about this. To continue from last time, if you remember, I mentioned about the factors that are affecting sleep. We all need good quality sleep. This is a fact. We have to have good quality sleep. There are many factors that affect it. There are age. Age is factor number 1. As the age increases, the sleep decreases generally. So there is this development of the brain, development of the mind that is occurring throughout the lifespan. In modern neuroscience, this is called neuroplasticity, synaptogenesis, neurogenesis. It means that the brain is continuing to evolve and develop. Of course, there are patterns that are fixed in there, but it doesn't mean one has to remain in those fixed patterns. As we mentioned before, the power of mantra, like Om mantra, the Namah Shivaya mantra, Gayatri mantra, different mantras impact the brain development. In fact, it impact the mind development. We talked about it before, maybe 2 weeks ago or so. They also impact the quality of sleep. So remember this point. Food impacts quality of sleep. Physical activity impacts quality of sleep. The ahar, meaning the stimuli from the Panch Gnan Indriya, impacts the quality of sleep. Our interaction with all reality outside, people, places, circumstances, etc., that impacts the quality of sleep. And the impact of sadhana. Whichever sadhana we're doing, mantra sadhana, we're reading scriptures, we're doing bhajans, we're doing bij mantra sadhana, whatever sadhana, or doing seva in different organizations, whatever sadhana we're doing, it is going to impact the sleep, because you're not going to do sadhana when you're in REM sleep. You cannot do anything. It's kind of automatic. It's going on automatically. We don't have control. We're not that evolved usually for that. Sadhana is done during Jagrata Avastha. Whatever we're going to do is while we're awake. That's all, right? But what we do completely while we're awake impacts the entire experience at nighttime. So along those lines, there are many factors that impact sleep. The role of sadhana is definitely there. If someone, for example, takes Namah Shivaya mantra and does it systematically, further, and increases the amount of the mantra, increases the repetitions, it is going to impact the experience that shows up at nighttime. It's very interesting. Just take one mantra, for example, and small puja is done, and the sadhana increases from one repetition to 3 to 5 to 10. It can increase to thousands even. It's called Purashcharan. So some people do 51,000 times Namah Shivaya mantra, 100,000 times Namah Shivaya mantra. It's not something somebody can do just like that. It takes time to develop that, but the more you do it, the more you can do it. This is again neurochemistry, neuroscience, brain plasticity. Even if we compare this with exercise, there's a very famous researcher. I believe his name is Daniel Amen, MD. He's got the Amen clinics. And he talks a lot about exercise and how the brain changes because of it. The more exercise we do, the more we're able to do it. Is it not so? Similarly, the more mantra sadhana we do, the more we're able to do that. Big saints, higher level saints, most of them have done a lot of extensive mantra sadhana. You see many people are holding this Gomukhi and they have these malas with them and they're taking the name of God. It's a beautiful thing. The only cautionary thing in that, if it becomes just mechanical and repetitive and something you're just doing then that can actually have a negative impact. Then you'll leave it at some point. You'll say, what is this stuff? It should not be done that way. Yeah, in Hindi we say prafulit man se hona chahiye. In Gujarati we say prafulit man thi karo. Do amount, but the mind should be very, very healthy in that. It should not get boring and all that. Nonetheless, there is something to be said for pushing through that boredom. You can say that also. For example, if Sachin is doing, let's say, 5 repetitions of this mala, Namah Shivaya mantra, and let's say Sachin decides, okay, I want to do now 7. But then by the time I get to the 6th one, I'm feeling a little bit bored, but I've made a decision already, then I have to stick to that decision. You see, so a lot of this thing about sadhana and its impact on the Swapna Avastha has to do with the decisions we're making in our Jagrata Avastha. It depends on the decision. Now, usually what happens in our life, when we make a decision, give it some time, the decision changes. Oh, I don't want to do it now. I feel like doing something else. So we don't stick to that. Part of spiritual progression is sticking to the decision we have made. You know how it happens, right? We get up in the morning, we say, okay, today I'm going to get these 4 or 5 things done. But as the day progresses, the things change so much. Our mind changes. Oh, I don't feel like doing this now. I don't want to go here. I don't want to do this, and it changes. And we just go based on what we're feeling at that time. We are contradicting our own decision that we made earlier in the day. See, this is why people are not successful in sadhana. This is the main reason why. There are several main reasons. This is one main reason. Another is a repetitive mechanical nature of it. That's another problem. And then the third thing is, what's new in this? It's just I'm just doing something just to do it. No, it cannot be done that way. This is why study of scriptures, the realization of the great states of the gurus, it has to be done with a very, very exploratory attitude, not a repetitive, ritualistic attitude. Exploratory attitude is what Shankaracharya ji is saying, that to explore what is the Atma, to realize who you are. You don't know who you are. We think we are this mind and all of its the content. No. That is not who we are. Vedanta is very clear. The mind and its content is not what we are, and the mind and its content is what is generating the Swapna Avastha. The Swapna Avastha is a jail. It's a prison. It's a clear prison. All of humanity is trapped in that. In your own internally created prison. Don't need somebody else to create a prison. One is already imprisoned in the Swapna Avastha. My God. And then there are so many neurological aspects to that also. So for example, there's something called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the SCN. It is a bundle of neurons in the hypothalamus that regulates the circadian rhythm. So the whole circadian rhythm is operated by this super chiasmatic nucleus. So this is an area within the brain. But the mantras that we chant, mantras that we chant impact the function of the brain, the super chiasmatic nucleus, the way the neuronal connections form, the way the electrical impulses are transmitted. It changes it. Absolutely, it changes it. I'll give you an example. If you just take the Aim Bij mantra or the Klim Bij mantra, one Bij mantra as an example. I'm talking about Bij mantra right now. Once we start speaking Bij mantra regularly, or take Namah Shivaya mantra or Om mantra, or you can take the Vaishnava mantras like Om Sri Krishnaya Namah or Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya or Swami Narayan mantra, which is Shadakshar, 6-syllable mantra given by Sajanand Swami Maharaj. So many mantras are there. When we speak a mantra, the mantra carries a certain vibrational opening with it. And what does it impact? It impacts the brain. Mantra directly impacts the suprachiasmatic nucleus inside the brain. And when it impacts that, it changes the quality of the experience of the dreams. But not only that, what the mantras do, they change at nighttime. They can also open a doorway outside the vortex of the REM sleep. Rapid eye movement is a hallucination. It's Alexa, stop. It is a REM hallucination. The REM sleep is no different than schizophrenia. It's exactly the same thing. Somebody who is delusional, having hallucinations and all that, we are hallucinating like that at nighttime every day. Think about this. And it is a mystery. People don't know what the real mystery is. Still, sleep researchers cannot find the actual essence of this. But the Vedanta masters have. What Vedanta has found, the neuroscience is still yet to discover. Simply because Vedanta is where the sadhanas and the sadhaka is directly interested in first-person experience using the multitude of mantras, shastras, stotras, revelations of the great rishis. And by using that, one is very aware of one's own anubhav. That's why Shankaracharya ji uses the expression aparoksh anubhuti. He uses that expression because it is your experience. It's not anybody else's. It's your direct experience. If you're seeing a flower, I'll give you an example. If you're seeing a red rose, you are the one seeing that red rose. What somebody else is seeing, you don't know that. In fact, you don't even know if what you're calling red is what they're seeing as red. You don't know that. You only know your experience. You can assume that somebody is having the same experience. Similarly, when we are moving into the Swapna Avastha, to really examine, wait a minute, what did I dream at nighttime? And we are so unconscious in that. As I mentioned last several days, we are so unconscious in the Swapna Avastha because of the chaos in the Jagrata Avastha. Because of all kinds of fragmentation effect, all kinds of conflicts and problems and agitations and stimuli, different scenes that are recorded inside our mind, all of that onslaught coming from the Jagat, from the Bhautik Jagat, is impacting the chiasmatic nucleus. It's impacting the 24-hour circadian rhythm cycle. In fact, it is impacting the photoreceptors in the retina. It is also impacting the optic nerve and the pineal gland. It is impacting the entire brain. And unless we are sure, unless we are clear the kind of impact we want on the brain, most human beings are just running blindly, not thinking, not even being aware what kind of impact there is on the human brain. Humanity is damaging the human brain. That is why 70 to 80% of all medications described in the pharmacies are psychiatric medications because of the torment that is going on, constant torment. Anywhere you turn and that torment is there. And one has to be very awake to not let that happen. That is Viveka. That is what Vivek Chudamani is all about. Vivek Chudamani is not just something that Shankaracharya ji dreamt up one day and wrote like that. No. It is living with with constant awareness. And Vachanamrut, Maharaj has mentioned this so many times. And he promoted this also. In different words are there, but the concept is the same. That Jagruti, Janpanu, awareness, continuous awareness, like what is the impact on the body, on the mind, on the brain, on my consciousness, my internal consciousness. And with that awareness, one decides what experiences to have, and one remains free from inside. But that strength is called Atma Bal. That internal strength is increased by satsanga. And remember the satsanga, the 5 aspects. We talked about it before. If we are wanting to be freed from the prison of the REM sleep, it's a jail. It's a massive energetic, so much energy is used by the brain to generate those dreams. Just if we think about that for a moment, how much of our brain power, the entire physical power, is used to create the dream world. It's a phenomenal amount of energy. And that's why people are waking up so tired and agitated and frustrated in the morning. They don't want to get up in the morning. They can't get up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Because their brain is still trying to catch up from all of the craziness of the REM sleep. It needs a break. The brain needs a break, and that's why the Shushupti Avastha is there for that. Why Shushupti Avastha? We have not really talked about it much yet. We will, though. Shushupti Avastha is a brain saying, enough. Bahut ho gaya. What nonsense is all this going on? Shut it all off. And the Shushupti Avastha comes to shut everything off so one can have finally some peace of mind. See the terrible things we are doing to our own brain. We don't have even 1% understanding of how to keep the brain and the mind healthy. Just running blindly, less than an animal, not even at the level of the animal. Just eating anything and everything, having any kind of stimuli, just because we want to have the stimulative experience. And nowadays, all of this stuff that is on the television and all these shows and TV shows and all these channels that are available, they are causing phenomenal damage to the brain beyond anything in the past. And for children also, children's minds, teenagers' minds are harmed because of this. The impulse control mechanisms are damaged. The number of psychiatric problems are increasing day in and day out because of the constant bombardment. And it is very, very unhealthy. It is very, very damaging. And it is stimulating. That is why people watch it, because they create now movies that are more and more and more stimulative. If you go to one movie theater, you're bombarded in so many ways with one movie. My God. Why is that? Because they want to sell the tickets. And how are you going to make more money? By bombarding the brain more, bombard it more. Everywhere, it doesn't matter where you go, more and more Vishay Bhog. And what is the result? Tolerance effect, saturation, damage to the way the brain is working, damage to consciousness. And at nighttime, the mind is trying to recover from all of that. And it generates these crazy kinds of scenarios and situations because the system is so imbalanced from within. This is an unfortunate fact. And because of that, there are more and more people who are aggressive. They have very less impulse control. Their delayed gratification has gone out the window. We want something, we want it instantaneously. So desires, they prop up, and we want to fulfill them and get stimulated by them. And you know how it is. For example, if you were to watch a black and white movie, now you say, what is this nonsense? We don't want to watch a black and we have to have the modern, even the shows and all these movies that are coming out now, their stimulation is so far ahead compared to what was there 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. So you say, oh my God, something from the 70s or 80s or 90s, it's too old, you can tell the difference. So the brain is habituated. It is called habituation. It is habituated to the higher stimuli. And this is true with all of the addictions also. It is true even with clothes. It's true with cars. It's true with everything in life. And the more we get habituated, the more saturation is there, and we get bored very quickly, and we want something more and something different. And pursuing higher, more stimulative experience damages the brain. Without a doubt, it damages the function of the brain. Because the brain is not set up to have that kind of constant stimuli. That's a problem. So this is where Viveka comes in. We cannot change the onslaught. We can decide what to input inside the brain. That's the decision. So at nighttime, the nighttime experience is where our attention needs to be. That is our direct indicator of our ajnana. And we can remember it. Some people say we don't remember our dreams and all that. But if you pay attention, you'll remember some of it at least. You see, and the quality of sleep, the quantity of sleep, the experience in sleep, these are indications of how far we are advanced spiritually. Otherwise, humanity is already doomed, completely doomed in Swapna Avastha. In my opinion, or Sachin's opinion and perspective, based on years of study, this is perhaps the singular biggest problem in humanity, is this Swapna Avastha. It's the most terrible thing, actually. And it is a chaos. It is a massive chaos. And the images that show up, the stories that show up, the people that show up, it's all programmed inside because of our attachments. Our family members show up, friends show up, people who are long gone, they tend to show. They're living inside our mind, actually, in terms of these images and stories. And Brahma Vidya is to see beyond all of that. You cannot remove that from your mind. But to be steady enough to evolve beyond that, that is why the Shastras, Stotras, Gurus, Mantra Sadhana, all of this is a bridge out of the content of the individualized mind. The individualized mind has a lot of content. That content belongs to us, but it's not who we are. We are one of the individuals in that content, playing around with that content, revolving with that content, and in relation to that content. Yes, that is needed also. That is part of living a very healthy life. But once you get trapped in that content, the trouble begins. And that's what Swapna Avastha is. It is the entrapment inside there. And it is at a very deep level of psychological consciousness. One has to go deeper than that in sadhana to break through that thing. And by the grace of God. That is why those who are pure devotees, they don't bother with all these worldly things too much. They're connected with Bhagavan because they realize that they don't want to be trapped inside this prison inside the mind. It's a jail. It's a massive, massive, horrific jail. And the number of disorders that are there, incredible. Sleep disorder. If you were to make a list, I can show you. I have a whole file downloaded on that. It's just horrendous. And people don't want to talk about that. Even people who go for counseling, therapy and all that, they don't talk about it that openly because they feel ashamed or they don't want to reveal what is going on. So many people die at 3 a.m. Jesus Christ was crucified at 3 p.m. And it's the exact opposite time. Actually, so that time, between 12 a.m. and about 3:30 a.m., that's the most degraded time in the human consciousness. That is why the Shiv Puja is done at 12 o'clock at night time. In Shivratri, you know how the Shivratri Puja goes, right? It's done at 6 p.m., 9 p.m., 12 p.m., 3 a.m. is done at 3 a.m. Because it is a way of breaking out of the horror show that goes on between that 12 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. That is where the nishachar and the ghosts and all those horrific things are active at that time. Think about all this is a fact. These are exact facts. So, and if you were to do a survey, I can show you some of the research. There's a lot of people who die at 3 a.m. They just are gone at that time. Not only that, the number of people having nightmares and all kinds of hellish experiences, these occur at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. And to stop that, Bhagwan Shankar ka ashray lena chahiye. There's no other way. In Namah Shivaya mantra, and if somebody has a nightmare problem, nighttime difficulty, before going to sleep, put on a beautiful diva and do Namah Shivaya mantra, 1008 times. And put the Shiv Sahasranam on at nighttime. Nothing will happen. No negative thing will ever come. Impossible. All because Bhagwan Shankar is in charge of all of those negative, those creatures, whatever the heck they are. Isko nishachar kehte hain. Isko bhoot kehte hain. Bhoot, pret and all this kind of thing is there at that nighttime. You see, so one has to be very aware that what is happening inside our mind at nighttime. If these kinds of experiences are going on, Hanuman ji ka mantra hai. Om Namo Hanumate Bhaya Bhanjanaya Sukham Kuru Hat Swaha. Put a small diva and keep that mantra on, nothing negative will come. This is the fact. This is the fact of psychological consciousness. Why great rishis gave these mantras? Because they knew about the damage that is occurring at nighttime and in the 24-hour cycle. And see, human mind has access to all kinds of dimensions. You see? So what we want access to only one thing, and that is Bhagavan. We don't want access to anything else. All those other things are part of Maya, and one can be lost in that. You see? So that is why, very clearly, Namah Shivaya mantra at nighttime, absolutely fantastic. Bhagwan Shankar ki kisi bhi upasana ab karo in any which way. Chamakam, Rudram, Namah Shivaya mantra, you can do all the different stotras. Shiv ji ka jo mantra hai at night time, they are very powerful and they will stop the difficulties. Mahamrutyunjay mantra can also be done. No problem. You see? So this is a way to stop the damage, to fix the damage. Because now here's the other thing I want to mention this very quickly. If one has performed Rajoguni and Tamoguni activity in the daytime, lots of Rajsik, Rajoguni activity, hyper-sexual stimulation, too much lobe, running after, or even lot of the sense stimulation, like lots of just running after different food items, things like that. Constantly in a Rajsik, too much, after a certain limit. Even the Tamsik, a lot of anger is there. You know what happens at nighttime? At nighttime, guess what? That's an opening into Narka Loka. Hari Om. It is a direct opening. That's why Bhagwan Krishna kehte hai, Kam, Krodh, Lobh. Ye kya hai? A dwar hai into the Narka. So in the waking time, to keep them very much within a certain limit. If they are not kept within a limit, the mental consciousness degrades and the Kundalini Shakti dips below Muladhara Chakra and the hellish regions open up. To stop all that thing, Bhagwan ki bhakti, upasana, sadhana, manan chintan, shuddha vichar, divya vichar, ye sab most important. It is for our own atma. It is not for anybody else. Who are we doing the adhyatmic sadhana for? For our own jivatma to progress out of the sahasrar into the moksha. Otherwise, God knows what happens. You see, so in this sansar, maximum number of people have serious kinds of disturbances at nighttime. But the brain is such a mechanism, it has to deal with that and then it has to come out of it. Otherwise, there are, particularly in the Western countries, the number of people with nighttime disorders is much more than Eastern countries also. It has to do with ahar. Sab mausahar hai, killing animals and doing all these things. What does that do? It has an impact on the brain, on the mind. In Gujarati, we say, Jevu an evu man. It is, meaning whatever we're inputting, that will be reflected. It's like that. So what we're eating, what we're seeing, what we're doing, that impacts the brain, impacts the mind, and it changes the experience at nighttime. You know how it is, right? If we have, for example, a dislike towards somebody, I'll give you a simple example, then we'll stop a little bit early today because I have a 9 o'clock a meeting with somebody. If we have an argument with someone, that argument stays with us. Then that person, that the memories, all that stuff is there, and the mind keeps playing with it. And how many of those kinds of memories are there? Countless. This is why Patanjali said, Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha Sankhya Vichar. Gunatitanand Swami mentioned this in the second Swamini Vato. That whatever has happened in the past, de-identify with it. It's nothing to do with us. The Atma need not identify with the past. Leave it alone. Whatever has happened, leave it alone. Come to the present. Make each day as fantastic as possible. And along with that, the interaction with all love, affection, care, no entanglement, no harmful attachment, and with that state, a beautiful, good quality energy to do sadhana. Do as much sadhana as possible. Vyartaha kalena netavyo bhaktim bhagavato vina. शिक्षापत्री में आज्ञा है महाराज की. उन्होंने क्या किया है? Very important point, which is easy to understand. Don't waste time. But sometimes we are so wrapped up inside repetitive patterns. That's why sadhana, even doing sadhana, is not a small thing. Doing sadhana is a big thing. It is going to change the experiences, and with the bhav inside, to take us out of the prison of the waking and dream state. This is Sachin's perspective. Somebody may disagree. If you do, I want to hear from you. I'd love to engage in a dialogue on that. No problem at all. You see, it is a prison. It is called Maya Karyam. That's what Shankaracharya ji is saying. He's saying that by Dhyan, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan in Shlok number 65, he's saying that you can come out of all of this and realize the Amalam Atmatattvam. Realize who you are, that you are a very pure, uncontaminated, unentangled, free, harmonious, whole, and divine being. That is who you are. This is the grace and glory of satsang. We'll continue tomorrow, folks. A lot more to say about this. We have to cover still those 10 areas of the sleep. We want to cover quite a bit more. It's an amazing, amazing subject to really talk about and to contemplate on. So we'll continue on this tomorrow. We'll stop here for now and we'll do the Shama Prarthana.